Good afternoon or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. All right, today we're going to talk about long division. So before we even begin dealing with long division with letters or variables in it, let's go back and refresh our memory on how to just do long division. So in the case of this problem, I have 13. We're going to try to divide 13 into 2,798. So first thing I do is I say, can I put the 13 into 2? Well, no, I can't, so I need to move over to 27. Does 13 go into 27 how many times? Well, it goes, let's try 2 times. So 2 times 13 is 26. I'm going to subtract. I bring down 27 minus 26 is 1. I bring down the 9. How many times does 13 go into 19? 1 time, so that's 13. I subtract again. That leaves me 6. I bring down the 8. How many times does 13 go into 68, do we think? Will it go 5 times or will it only go 4 times? And so that's when you're going to use your calculator to figure that part out. So let's try a 5. So 5 times 13, 15, 1 is 65. Subtract. I have remainder of 3. This is the remainder. And so back in elementary school, we either wrote 215 remainder 3, or you might have and should have learned that that's 215, and then we write the remainder over what we were dividing by to get our fraction, but mind you, I put a 15 instead of a 13. Sorry about that. So that'd be 215 and 3/13. All right. My preference, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is to do it this way versus the remainder. So let's look at what happens when we put numbers in. So first thing up here it says is it must be in standard form. So it must be in standard form. So x cubed, square, linear, a constant, we are in that form. We're going to take and put that on the inside part of the box and here inside, and we're going to put the x plus 2 out here. And so what you're going to say is you're going to ask yourself, how many times does this x right here go into x cubed? In other words, how can I make that x look like an x cubed? Well, if I multiply it by an x squared, so if I take x squared here times this x, I get x cubed. Then I'm going to take that x squared and I'm going to times it by the 2 here as well, which becomes 2x squared. So once again, what did I just do? I took this x squared times this to make this guy perfect, so it look exactly the same, and then I took this times this. So it's like I distributed to both of them. I'm going to subtract. Well, x cubed minus x cubed is 0. X squared minus 2x squared is a negative x squared. I'm now going to bring down my minus 5x. And we're going to repeat the process. I'm going to ask myself, how do I make this x out here, this red x way out here, look like the negative x squared? Well, if I multiply it by a negative x, so negative x times this x is going to be a negative x squared. Notice they match, they're identical. Then I'm going to take the negative x times the 2, I'm going to minus 2x. I'm going to draw my line, and remember, I am subtracting. So a negative here minus a negative here is 0, so that cancels out. So those cancel out. And then I take negative 5 minus a negative 2. Well, this negative and this minus makes a plus, so this ends up being 3x. I bring down the 3, and that's a plus 3. And now I say to myself, all right, what do I need to multiply this x by to make it a negative 3x? Well, if I multiply by a minus 3, or a negative 3, that's going to be a negative 3x. And that negative 3 times that positive 2 is going to give me a negative 6. I again subtract. A 3 minus a negative 3 is going to cancel out. And that leaves me then 3 minus a negative 6. Well, that minus in the negative is going to be a plus, so I'm going to have a 9. This is my remainder. So when I write this answer, I'm going to write it as x squared minus x minus 3 plus a remainder of 9 over x plus 2. Because once again, I'm going to take the remainder and I'm going to put it over the divisor and I'm going to get the fraction. All right, let's do another one. So, first thing I look at is that in standard form? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to put the 2x cubed minus x squared plus 3x plus 4 on the inside. I'm going to put the x plus 1 on the outside. And we're going to say to ourselves, I have a 2x cubed. How do I make the x on the outside match that? Well, if I multiply it by a 2 and an x squared, this will become a 2x cubed. And remember, I have to multiply to the 1 as well, so that's going to be a plus 2x squared. I'm going to subtract, and when I subtract, the 2x cubed and minus the 2x cubed, it cancels. The negative x minus the positive 2x squared is going to be a negative 3x squared. I'm going to bring down the plus 3x. At this point, I say to myself, what do I need to multiply this x out here by in order to make it look like negative 3x squared? Well, if I multiply it by a 3 and an x, that will get me a negative 3x squared right here. And then I take that minus 3x and I multiply it to the 1. And I get a minus 3x. When I subtract, these guys cancel. When I subtract 3x minus a negative, well, the minus and the negative once again makes a plus, so I get a 6x. I bring down my plus 4, and I say to myself, what am I going to multiply that x out here by, this blue x on the outside, by to get a 6x? Well, I'm going to multiply it by a positive 6. That way it matches exactly, and 6 times 1 is 6 here. I'm subtracting. When I subtract, these guys cancel out. And when I take 4 minus 6, I get a negative 2. This, once again, is my remainder. So when I write this out as my answer, I have 2x squared minus 3x plus 6 minus 2 over x plus 1. All right, let's do another one. Okay, this one, I have x cubed, then I have a minus 19x. I don't have an x squared term in there. So I need to leave a hole, or I need to put a 0 value in there. So we're going to put x cubed plus 0x squared minus 19x minus 30. And we're going to divide that by x minus 5. So what do I need to multiply the x out here by to make it look like an x cubed? That would be an x squared. So x cubed, take the x squared times the minus 5 for a minus 5x squared. I subtract. When I subtract, the x cubes drop out, and I am left with a positive 5x squared. I bring down my minus 19x. I ask myself, what do I need to multiply by in order to get the x on the outside, that red x, to be a 5x squared? So I need to multiply by 5x. I get 5x squared minus 25x. When I subtract, I get the first two, the 5x squared and the 5x squares cancel. I take my 19 minus 25. That really becomes a plus 25, and I get, I'm sorry. So it becomes negative 19 plus 25, and that gives me a positive 6x. I bring down the minus 30. What do I need to multiply that red x out there by to get it to be a 6x? Well, I need to multiply by a positive 6. This becomes 6x minus 30. I subtract. When I subtract, 6x minus 6x cancels. Negative 30 minus a negative 30 becomes a positive 30, so that becomes a 0. They cancel out. So I have no remainder. So my answer is just x squared plus 5x plus 6. All right, last but not least, our last example. This one, I start out with x to the 4th, but then I notice I'm missing an x cubed, so I have to put in a 0x cubed minus 5x squared, but I'm missing the x, so that's a 0x plus 4. And I put the x minus 1 on the outside. Really, you should pause the video at this point and see if you can do this on your own and then check your answer back up here after you're finished. It'd be good practice. So here we go. I'm going to multiply by x cubed so that I get an x fourth minus x cubed. I subtract, the first two cancel, and I subtract, and this becomes a positive x cubed. I bring down the minus 5x squared. What do I need to multiply by? I need to multiply by an x squared, so plus x squared becomes an x cubed. Multiply again, minus x squared. Subtracting, this becomes 6x squared. I bring down my 0x. You can put a plus or a minus. I don't know why I did minus there. We'll put them as a plus. I'm going to say that has to be multiplied by a plus 6x, which gives me a 6x squared minus 6x. When I subtract here, the front drops out. 0 minus a negative really is 0 plus 6x, so this is 6x plus 4. I bring down the 4. Wait a minute. Oh, I already brought down the 4. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, as I tell you that, and I've brought it down. So I brought down my 4. What do I need to multiply by? A plus 6. So this becomes 6x minus 6. When I subtract, I end up with a remainder of 10. So my answer is x cubed plus x squared plus 6x plus 6 with a remainder of plus 10 over x minus 1. So ladies and gentlemen, that's how you do that. So for homework tonight, instead of doing page 308, 9 to 16, I'm going to give you a worksheet. So please complete the worksheet for homework tonight. All right, have a good day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.